taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week. This is Augmented Reality, presented by the Triple S League.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast, your source for news, leaks, and insights about games and the gaming industry. Today is July 27th, 2019. Hope everybody's having a great summer and a great weekend. This is, of course, the Saturday morning edition of the show. It's not in the morning this morning for us. It's not the morning in Europe. It's not the morning in Australia. So perhaps, I don't know, maybe I should just start calling it the generic Saturday edition of the show, because we have people listening in from all over the world as usual, and I see a bunch of you in the live chat. So welcome this morning. If you are listening live, please say hello in the live chat. Send us your questions and comments there as well. We'll read and respond to as many as we can throughout the podcast. And don't forget to slam that like button. It likes it rough. And it tells us in YouTube that you appreciate this content. And if you do it now, you don't have to do it later. But don't do like one of the commenters on our recent video did, where they hit the subscribe button while watching the video, but realized that they had already subscribed, so they accidentally unsubscribed themselves, and then they had to resubscribe. So, don't cause yourself extra clicks. Just get it out of the way right now, and forget about it. All right. If you're listening after the fact on one of the audio-only platforms, we're glad you're here as well, and we appreciate your likes and follows. It does take us a day or two to get the podcast up to the audio platforms, so if you want to get the latest info sooner, we encourage you to hit the link in the description to subscribe to the Triple S League YouTube channel. All right, I'm here as always with Cybsidian, and we've got, as always, we have gaming news to talk about, some stuff coming out of QuakeCon, interesting op-ed in Forbes about what Anthem could potentially do to save itself, but of course the big story today, you see it in the thumbnail, you see it in the title, we have kind of a disturbing story about something that's happening to a colleague of ours in this YouTube space, and we have to be careful about what we do say about it, so we might have to speak in very general, vague terms about it this morning, just, for this person's protection.
Things are ongoing.
Things are ongoing. There's legal stuff happening, and so we have to be careful. And, we don't want to speak out of turn. We don't want to say anything that could potentially make the situation worse or incriminate ourselves, because we are connected to this in kind of an uncomfortable way. And, I don't know how much we can say about that, but Saib's going to cover that. So, all right. Might as well dive into that.
So, imagine you've created a channel, it's a fan channel for a certain product. It's because you really like the product. And it's really all you cover. And you don't really cover very much political stuff, or, you don't even give your opinion on whether or not you like, your toast, dark or light, right? You don't even give your opinion on if you like vanilla versus like mint chocolate chip ice cream. You just cover the game and the fun and have fun with the community and help build a community and help build people around that community. And then imagine that, you get some generalized leak information comes out that's, in all honesty, pretty darn obvious, especially considering that at one point it was even said publicly that this was their plan. But then they kind of the company kind of curtailed off of it and said, no, back to the drawing board kind of thing. When really it's kind of, again, you've been watching the product long enough. You know that it's not it's something that they're basically working on. It's really quite obvious when you think about it. And at any rate, you've been having some fun. You've been talking with some people. You've been mentioning and going through all of the different kind of stuff that's coming out. And then one day, you even get so much so to the point where you've been having conversations with some of the people that run the company, and they even ask, say, hey, do you have an address? We might ship you something cool. So you give them your address. You're kind of excited. Things are going really well for you. You have a huge community. And then you wake up one morning. There's a knock at your door. You open the door, and here's two big burly people who identify themselves as investigators. before long, it's quite obvious that they're not police investigators, that they're private investigators working for the company that you run a gaming community fan site for. And they start asking you serious questions as to whether or not you're connected with the company in some way, and if you've been leaking secrets against company policy. And you're like, no, I don't work for the company. I don't know anybody who works for the company, other than the contacts we've had at the company through official, company forums and whatnot, and through this official channel that they reached out. And then they start saying things like, well, what about your business associates? And you're like, well, now this is getting a little uncomfortable. I don't know if I should be talking to you about my business associates. I mean, I have a job, and it's kind of important that that job be, that I manage to, have some general respect at my workplace. And then, it starts getting a little bit more forceful. Well, perhaps you don't quite understand the predicament that you're in. And you're like, what do you mean predicament? And you are encouraged to check your community site. You're encouraged to check your other communication tools that you use. And you find out that your chat platform has not only been turned off, it's been removed aggressively by the company that owns it. You have a long list of emails suggesting that you've done something nefarious, really nefarious, and that's why it was closed down. Not only that was your channel closed down, which you communicate with most of your community, but your own private channels and even an email has been terminated as well. And you're starting to get confused while said large people are looking over you, suggesting that, again, you check a few more things, and then you find out that you've gotten a strike on another thing, and that you're being taken to court on another thing. And they're tapping their toes, and they're saying, maybe now you want to start telling us about your alleged connections. And you're like, what the hell is going on here? I'm just a fan. I just make content for this game. I don't do any of this because I want to, in the form of a work requirement. I do this because I don't do this because I need to. I do this because I want to. I'm not involved in this industry other than just a fan. And they start suggesting that you might want to deliver all of your hard copies of information, including your laptop and your computer tower and your cell phone and any other technology that you may have in your house. Again, you ask, you're not the police. And they say very quite clearly, no, they're not the police. And they leave that hang for a couple of minutes, while again adjusting maybe a picture frame of your family. What kind of idiots do this? What kind of greedy corporation gets so invested in how they want their message to spread, in the way that they want their message to spread, and control how exactly their message is spread, that even a fan who just talks about the game can be suddenly lined up and basically threatened in every way possible because they talked about a game, not exactly the way that they wanted them to talk about a game. This is quite possibly one of the stupidest things I've ever seen a company do. This is one of the most arrogant things I've ever seen a company do. This is a brutal thing. And to be clear, and just to be very, very clear for all those listening and for all of those developers listening, this is not a game that we talk about monthly or even weekly, especially weekly. Not weekly, not monthly. This is something that we occasionally mention every now and then. And this is because we ended up having to pull down our videos because the questions concerned us by name, because they couldn't quite figure out who we were. So There's that. So yeah, this isn't a game that we cover, not even quite regularly. I think we only pull down about four or five videos, maybe tops. But it's
Temporarily,
a disturbing temporarily. We haven't deleted them.
It's more of a precautionary measure, but yeah, they we were this person was asked specifically about us, the Triple S League, and so that's kind of how we were connected to this. I wasn't sure if we should mention that, but Saab just mentioned it, so I mean, there you go. So that's where this kind of hits close to home. Yeah, it's so disturbing.
So this is of course is part of a bigger problem with a lot of companies and things that we have talked about very recently. Is that the fact that there are some companies out there who are willing to and who want to control the narrative so much that they want to control exactly what you get when you get it, that they don't even enjoy or respect fans. Because a fan might say something that they don't necessarily agree with, or that they exactly want out in a particular moment, in a particular time. And it would just be better for everybody if they all shut up, sat down, and listened exactly to what the company wanted them to say, and exactly when they wanted them to say it. And that, oh, how nice it is that a certain group of people who talk about the news and information in a more professional form, they understand, they get the picture. They get the picture that you will send your articles to us, and we will check over the article, and then we will confirm whether or not we enjoy the article, and whether or not you're allowed to print the article. And if we want you to go and attack another company who's not quite as rich and as powerful as we are, then hey, perhaps that's what you should do. You know, those kinds of things happen all the time. Those kinds of things happen all the time in this industry. And it's a little on the disgusting side. And it makes you a little paranoid, really. I mean, it really does. When you're constantly surrounded by this concern that if a company doesn't like exactly what you say and exactly the way that you say it at exactly the right moment that you're supposed to say it or not supposed to say it, then you're not only in the outhouse, but you're being targeted by brutes coming to your house, tapping on pictures of your family while they insist that you turn over everything that you have. What kind of a person does this? Well, it's not somebody who values freedom, or especially freedom of the press, or freedom of people to just ask questions. It's certainly not any of them. It's entirely screwed up. Now we can't get into this too deep. And some things I'll make it quite clear have been stated in more emotional tone, obviously. And of course the company, if and when this hits the news, will say, "Oh no, we weren't trying to intimidate the person. We were just looking for leaks." No, we respect the community. We respect this person who has a massive amount of hardcore fans of their product in their community. And no, you don't understand. That was somebody overreached. Somebody was trying to clean up loose ends, and they were tightening things down, and they may have sent the person, the wrong people to that person's house. But again, this is just a stepping stone in where we go from here. This is just a stepping stone in the sense that yes, there's a new show in town. There's a new way to do business in town. And it's, if you don't like what somebody is saying about your product, if you don't like another company, or if you don't like another platform, take the platform out. Take the people out. Take their support networks out. And if that doesn't work, take their family out. Do everything you can to control absolutely every single narrative. This has been kind of a weird week. We've been reading all of the beautiful, great lore, which we can't mention yet because the embargo hasn't lifted yet, for Cyberpunk Red, which is the bridging between Cyberpunk 2020 and 2077. It's a great, it's really good, and we're gonna have a video that comes out here hopefully for August, as soon as the embargo lifts, and we're gonna showcase some of the lore in a new and interesting way, and we hope you all enjoy that. But reading about mega corporations taking over the country, taking over the world essentially, and running cities and places and people into the ground because it can perform profit, this is something that, again, you look kind of here and you say, oh, we don't do that. Do we really? And the more you start to look at it, the more you start to realize that, yes, it's exactly what a lot of companies do. Is a lot of people and a lot of governments. I have to make that quite clear. It's not just corporations. It's big government too. And if you are not a party line person, then not only are you shown the door, but the whole crowd of people might just turn their back as you're summarily executed in the street. Now, that's hyperbolic, obviously. But is it, knowing what we see in various countries around this world? Is this really a step that's been learned from freedom and freedom of the press? Or is this a step that's been picked up by some of the most dirty companies out there going, hey, you know what might be a good idea? Maybe we should instrument controlled speech, just to control the narrative. So yeah, that's what we've been dealing with in the last couple of days here. It's been really interesting, really disturbing, and really disgusting.
We will give more details when we can.
And we will. I'm tempted to say things, that would be probably not that good. I'm tempted to inform companies that think like this that it's a really bad idea, and that they might be making enemies with not the right people. But I'm not going to say any of that because it's not going to help the situation.
No, I mean, first and foremost, we want to.
I'm not.
Yeah, go ahead.
And that we don't want fans to, quote unquote riot, right? We don't want them to contact and harass, because really this would work to their advantage. And so when the story does come out, the best thing you can do is not to contact the company and lob proverbial fire bombs at them, Twitter hate mobs and that kind of thing, proverbial stuff. And certainly not anything worse than that, obviously. The best thing you can do is you just turn your back on them. You just say, no, until this behavior is remedied in a very public way, and people are fired for this, and an investigation is done, and amends are given, I'm not interested in your product anymore. I'm not interested, not only in your product, I'm not interested in anything that associates with you. And I'm going to make sure that they understand why I'm not associating myself with any of their products is because of what you've done. So
yeah, a lot of you are wondering what company
we can't say.
We're not going to say right now. I mean, it's going to come up. It's
going I can guarantee you this is not CDPR. This is not Obsidian. This is not Microsoft. This is not a lot of the indie companies that we cover from time to time. Absolutely none of the little guys, and surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, because I've been talking about how Microsoft has been turning over kind of a really new leaf, and they understand the importance of a lot of things. It's interesting. A few years ago, Microsoft was threatened with a breakup, and parts of their company were broken up. They were told that no, they can't have the distribution platform and tools to access those platforms all under one house. They were told they can't do that, and there were people in that company at that time who were pushing for those things, who, when they were told no, left the company and are now at other companies that are attempting to do the exact same thing. So, Microsoft's the biggest company of them all, but they don't do this kind of stuff, and to that I have to give them props. I really, really have to give them props. Congratulations for being respectable humans. And my faith in Microsoft is it's not stellar. I wouldn't drop off my newborn child there, but I at least have the respect that they're actually going out of their way to make sure that they don't become this kind of a tyrant.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. It's a tyrant. Yeah. So in the meantime, we can't talk about the company. We can't talk about the product.
And the reason we're holding back on the info is because this individual is looking at their legal options and for the sake of their protection and until they have the chance to speak to their lawyers and make sure everything is safe. I mean, we want to put the story out there. We want to blow this wide open, but we also want to make sure this person is okay and that nothing is said or happens or gets out there too fast that might harm them in some way. I mean, a lot of you are wondering, which at this point, which company you're going to boycott. It will get out there. We will say more as soon as we can, and we'll even hopefully have this person on to give the story from their own individual perspective. So we'll leave it there. There's a lot of speculation going on, but I mean, just hearkening back to what you said, Saib, like when growing up, I was always worried it was the government that was going to,
I still am. I still am.
Right. I mean, it's all in tandem, right? But I mean, like, I never thought it would be the corporations that result in, the tyranny of our culture.
Anybody with power can become a tyrant. Even people without power can become tyrants in a reverse kind of way. It's kind of weird. I've mentioned very occasionally, very little about some of the other work that I do, primarily because it's a point at which people can kind of track you down. But I work a lot with like consulting and certain fields within government and governments, multiple, plural. And I've got to say that some of the news that we see from time to time is disturbing. It is disturbing how much some people, some companies, some countries, some governments are so eager to jump on a train of enforcing you to follow their every whim, and if you don't, disappearances happen. And this is something that only some media will cover some of the time when they feel that they can do so without getting into big trouble. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, yeah, disturbing story. Not a fun thing to talk about, but absolutely something that we need to keep our eye on because we can't be letting this kind of thing continue to happen. I mean, there's also there's other aspects of this. There's abuse of the copyright system on YouTube that's factoring into this, and I know YouTube is supposedly working to improve things there, and hopefully they do. But then there's also just the fact that simply based on unproven accusations, you can have a good chunk of your online community removed based on unproven accusations. So there's a lot of disturbing angles here. So we may need to ask for your help, our audience, in the future to help spread the word and go to bat for this person when it comes out, what's going on. Because if there's one thing that's been proven over the past couple of years is that when you make a big stink on Twitter, when a community rallies behind somebody and makes a stink about mistreatment of a content creator, the companies in question typically listen. I mean, it has to be kind of, it has to be a relatively big stink. The smaller creators often fall through the cracks still. But, we have a number of interconnected communities, especially with the Cyberpunk 2077 community podcast and all of that. And so hopefully we can help this person out when the time comes that we can actually go into more detail about this. And we have a pretty good community here. And so, we know we can count on all of you. Was there anything else that you wanted to say about this, or should we move on to some of the news of the week? Some of the gaming news.
No, that's it for now. Of course, we always appreciate the fans, and I mean, and if you guys wanted to make a fan channel about our channel, it's like we're never going to show up at your house or send people to your house to say, hey, maybe you should dial back talking about us.
Well, we wouldn't do that if somebody made like the triple S League sucks.com. Like, nobody, we're not gonna, whatever. We don't delete negative comments on our videos.
Well, we
delete stupid comments. We delete ones that are just outright trolling or just completely unconstructive.
Super trolling, or people who use like slurs and stuff like that. Obviously, we get rid of that because it's like when it comes to slurs and stuff like that, and if in America you have the right to like run up to somebody and tell them that they're a donkey, and that you like, unless you were to do this constantly, you can't be arrested for that, because if you're just doing it randomly, then you might be removed from like a library or a movie theater or other private property or a restaurant or something like that. But if it's just up on the public street and whatever, that's totally fair. But at the same time, it's like it's the same thing that you have with like somebody who's running around with like just something really gross on them, like really gross. It's like, we like the civility of not having to deal with that directly. It's not that I have an open thing. We don't ban people very often from our Discord. I think we've only ever had to ban one person on our Discord. And that boils down to open slur attacks against us and the community. And I even said, it's like, well, as long as they're attacking me, I don't really care. But to start attacking the other community members, no, that's not what they're here for. They're not here to be crapped at because of some opinion that they hold about a video game. Like debate, sure, argue, fine. Slur attacks and direct attacks, no. And we don't make a big grand case about it either. We state why, and then we move on. And in some cases, we're even open to forgiving and moving on, because forgiveness is really something that a lot of people avoid. A lot of people don't really use it in days like this. I saw a great Twitter post the other day. It's like, cancel culture is this very cute woman. I don't think she was a girl. I think she was older than 18. But she's doing this little dance and words are popping up on her screen. And she does this for a lot of stuff. And it's like, cancel culture is not good. People make mistakes, they learn and they move on. And exactly that. It's like, we never want, like, I'm not a big fan of boycotts because of what somebody said on their personal time. I am definitely a fan of boycotts when it comes to X company moved I'm gonna do something really ridiculous and out there from a movie, I think it was. So no, from a video game. So it's like if you send a group of mercenaries to a country to take it over and use their natural resources to help your company, obviously that's not cool, and obviously everybody should probably do their best to boycott that product as much as possible, right? So there's a difference between like being kind of a crappy company and utilizing laws and rules in kind of not a necessarily a super fair way, and doing something that's clearly against every spirit of every rule ever put down. And not to mention legal ones as well. It's obviously something like that. Anyways, I'm rambling now. So yes, we very much value your opinion. We don't ever shy away from answering hard questions. Sometimes we just don't have the time, but most of the time we will try to answer questions if you directly pass them on to us. And we, of course, we really appreciate everybody who follows us and everybody who supports on as many platforms as we can. And we're really excited for some of these new platforms to come out that are offering more of a purest form of free speech. Not because we agree with everything that the creators are saying or doing, but because I believe there is a need for a town square. A lot of cities used to have a town square where you could say anything, pretty much anything, with the exception of obviously threats, calls to attack people, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Basic legal stuff in any fair and open society. Really look forward to supporting those, because we really need it. We really need it. As a community, as a society, we need the ability for people to say things and then to be able to work out things, to negotiate a way of communicating. And negotiating, you're either a tyrant, you're a slave, or you're a negotiator. Those are your three positions that you get to choose in life. And as long as you're a negotiator dealing with other negotiators, life is not perfect, but you can get it pretty darn close to perfect. Mm-hmm. When you're able to negotiate. When you throw in one tyrant into the mix, life does not become perfect. When you throw in slaves into the mix, life is not perfect. So, really encourage people to kind of keep that in mind. It's a good thing to live by.
Hmm. All right, you are listening to the Augmented Reality Podcast. We love seeing everybody so active in the live chat. If you want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast today, we welcome you to join our Discord community. You can find the link in the description below. It's a place where you can chat with us and other listeners of Triple S League podcasts and materials about all the things we love to talk about. Stay up to date about everything we're doing here at the Triple S League. Click the link below to join. Be sure to say hi to us in the welcome channel, and you can stay tuned there for updates on this story as well. And I am just going to quickly change the image on the live broadcast, because I don't want to have that ugly text up on the screen while we're talking about more fun things, gaming news and stuff like that. So as you can see, I put up a Doom Eternal image there. We're going to be talking about that a little bit today. QuakeCon is happening right now. I believe it's going on through the weekend, and there's some stuff has come out of that already that is fairly interesting. We've got some details about excuse me, the Doom Eternal battle mode. It's an online mode that pits two demons against one Doom Slayer. So it's like a 2v1, 2-on-1. So three player match, two demons on a team together, and then of course the Doom guy on the other team. And the demons have some interesting abilities. They can create hazards and summon lesser demons. And so that kind of brings an interesting dynamic to it. I think I'm looking forward to checking this out, because Doom has always been one dude against hordes and hordes of demons. And so if you're playing as a demon on a team with another demon, and you're able to summon other demons and throw them at the guy and try to take him down, that's pretty interesting. There's apparently 5 playable demons and 6 maps with free updates coming. So, interesting. So that's something you think you'd be interested in checking out, Saib?
The first person just makes it so nauseous. I really do appreciate the work that they've done on the Doom series. Mostly that it's good to see that some of the games from my childhood have been basically reforged into something that is good, that really does stick with the original concept, the original desire, the original goals. Have to say, just absolute kudos to absolutely huge clap for the direction that they've gone with this. Really, really, really impressive that they have done so well, and they've done so good with this product in keeping with its original concept. I would love this to happen to a whole swack of other games. I would love like not just the genre, but the actual like I don't know what you call it, the actual title, the actual original title, which I know that can't really happen, but like one of my favorite games, Darklands. I would love to see a continuation of Darklands. It Darklands is one of these games where it's really affected my writing. I'm writing a book and it's going very well. And I have to say that it's really based on a lot of games that I've played. Not just one, a lot of games. Like I've taken a lot of stuff from a lot of games and really put them together into the book, and really kind of it's not a mix mash. If you watch Family Guy, you might remember a scene where Brian writes Space Shire 7, and it's just an absolute god awful mess. I'm not doing that. I'm going to such lengths to ensure that I am not creating Space Shire 7, because that would just be not cool, and it's not what I want to. It's not the content that I'm trying to create. But it is impacted significantly by a lot of games that I used to play as a kid. And I mean, even now, there's a lot of things in there that are, gentle nods, and I throw in as many Easter eggs as I can without it being like, Easter egg soup. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to kind of getting this out. But yeah, Darklands, big game that I really wish I could play that kind of new and renewed. Would be awesome in general. Then you've got like Jill of the Jungle and a bunch of these other games where it's like yeah, I would love to kind of get back into that. I'd kill for a good Jazz Jackrabbit game again, like a new one. I know that there's still a modding community that is quite successful, that is still quite prevalent, that does a really good job. That is obviously something that is still ongoing, and that's really cool. But nothing's quite as good as like getting a new game that you don't have to install a bunch of like emulators for just to get running on your system, because it's so old. Wow. But yeah, no, Doom, congratulations. You guys have done a fantastic, a smashing success of work on that. Really dislike the microtransaction stuff, as we've talked about a lot, that Bethesda has been doing in these cases. But I really think that this is something that they should be praised for, and that I'm looking forward to watching snippets of other people play this, because I myself can't play first person.
Fair enough.
It's just too difficult.
Did Doom have microtransactions?
I don't think so. I really don't think so. Again, I don't play it regularly. I don't even own it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I haven't played Doom 2016 either, but I am definitely interested in checking out Doom Eternal. It looks really cool. And
Captain Dammit says he wrote a story in 6th grade about Lara Croft's brother that he made up. So it was basically Indiana Jones. That's funny. That is really good. That is really good.
I remember doing that fan fiction. It's like half of all stories you write in grade school. All right. Speaking of the classic Doom games, classic Doom games are getting re-released on new platforms. Doom 2, and Doom 3 are all being... it says here they have released on PS4, Xbox, and Switch, and it looks like the original two, Doom 1 and Doom 2, are available on iOS and Android. I wonder how well those play. I had the original Wolfenstein 3D on my phone once, a while back. It was awkward controls. I mean, it took a while to get used to, but it was still a lot of fun. I played it through several times, I think. So I don't know. That's such a classic old game. But yeah, so if you want to play the classic games, they are coming back, and I think that is one of the good things that companies can do is I guess if you re-release, there are a lot of old classic games that still hold up gameplay wise, and so it makes sense for them to.
I mean, Django Alliance 2 still one of the best games in my humble opinion. And the modded versions of it are just absolutely stand out. But even going back, like, Zelda 1, Zelda 2 is still a really good game.
Oh yeah, you can tell a game is good when it came out in the 80s and it's still fun to play now.
Yeah,
by the way,
absolutely.
Sarah Elric says Doom 2016 doesn't have microtransactions. Thank you for that. I didn't think that it did, but I wasn't 100% sure. It's
especially nowadays, that a game doesn't launch, right? A game doesn't launch with microtransactions. But a new way of doing microtransactions now is that, sure, the game doesn't launch with it, but it has it 2 months later, because they add
after the reviews have been written.
After the reviews have been written, after things have been updated, it's like, oh well, now it's there, and it's like, oh god, it's really a creepy way of doing business.
It's scummy. It's scummy as hell, and
it's like coming in after you put up an art piece of artwork and then you change something dramatically with it. It's like that is a significant game altering thing. So yeah,
mm-hmm.
The nerdy rodent says the bait and switch basically. 100%.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so you can play the classic Doom games now, and now that it doesn't on the article I have open, it doesn't mention anything about PC, but I think you can. I imagine they've always been available for PC. I should check Steam, except I don't have it open right now. I know I just recently bought all of the original Commander Keen games. Funny thing with that is, like, it just installs and then it runs in DOSBox. It's like, but at least, DOSBox is pre-configured at least, but yeah, that's another one of those games where the gameplay really holds up, and it's relevant because it seems like it's too many IPs of those classic games get rebooted so they can get turned into freemium mobile games.
Really bad mobile games.
It happened with Keen, it happened with Lemmings, and I'm sure it's happened with others as well that I'm not familiar with.
Command and Conquer.
That's another one. Absolutely.
It's just depressing.
As Terra K says, you can get them on PC already via Steam. I figured that was the case. I just hadn't checked before we went live here. All right, but now speaking of other Bethesda games and speaking of Wolfenstein, Wolfenstein Youngblood is reviewing terribly.
Yep.
And if you look at it on Metacritic, it's getting decent reviews from the actual reviewer, like I shouldn't say actual reviewers. In my opinion, the actual reviewers are the user score people, the actual people playing the game. But like the mainstream critics are giving it a decent review, but the user score is in the toilet. So, not a good game, and it's being criticized for cringy dialogue and cringy characters, microtransactions.
I thought cringe was a selling point for some people.
Maybe for some people. I think it depends on the genre. It depends on, like, is it supposed to be? How is it supposed to be? Some things are supposed to be kind of campy and cringy. It's like, you watch a movie by Quentin Tarantino, and I'm bringing him up just because he's fresh on my mind My wife and I went and saw the new Spider-Man last night. Quite enjoyed that. And anyway, so the 9th movie by Quentin Tarantino, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, is being advertised all over the place. You watch a Tarantino movie, they're over the top. They've got cringy stuff. It's like it's like just over the top gratuitous gore and stuff and uses of racial slurs. And you go in expecting that when it's a Tarantino movie. You know, it's like supposed to be kind of like that. All his movies are like that. It's almost a genre unto itself. And so, I don't know, like, yeah, cringe, it really depends on the content. If it's not, if it's trying hard, if the creator realizes it's cringe and like that's part of what they're trying to accomplish, then I think it makes sense, but I don't know. Anyway, so it's being criticized for cringe, for microtransactions. Why this is not what are they even selling for microtransactions in this? It's a single player FPS. Like, this doesn't make any sense. I guess you could ask that about Rage 2 as well.
I believe it's like weapon skins.
It's
they're like, and again, it's like weapon skins. Why weapon skins? Why not like character skins and models? Oh wait, it's first person only.
Yep.
Again, and I'm not about to say that it shouldn't be first person, because I just made an argument for keeping traditional games, traditional in the sense of like what they were and what they are, and that you don't need to go out of your way to overly change them, and definitely changing genres is bad. So again, Wolfenstein and Doom are both originally created as first person, so I mean, more than happy for them to stay that way. I can't play it; it makes me sad, but that's still on them. That's not on. They don't need to change because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
just feels like abuse of a classic IP to
a little bit.
Just jam it full of. I mean, buying a game is one thing, but then buying a game and then jamming it full of additional stuff, turning it into a storefront, basically. I don't know, just what it's frustrating. Anyway, all right. Moving on, though. So, interesting op-ed in Forbes, of all places.
I am going to do something that I rarely do towards official news distribution people. I'm going to tip my hat to Forbes for a pretty decent article. Congratulations. At least some people in the industry of putting out and talking about things in an official publication format are still kind of relevant. So congratulations. That's not common that I can say that at all. So yeah, big congratulations there. And that is basically, they said that in order for Anthem to survive, they've got to drop their store. They have to take all of the items from their store and they have to put it into the game world as loot, as possible loot. And that will be the most important step to actually having that game be able to be something other than a dead product in about 6 months to a year. And I completely agree. Yeah, who am I and what have I done with the real Cybe? Mm-hmm. No, I call out when I call out balls and strikes. I was giving my opinion, not my opinion. I was giving my professional consultation opinion on a particular event that happened recently, and one of the people that I work with goes, "Are you mad?" I'm like, I'm not making this. I'm not saying this because this is what I want to happen. I am only saying this because this is what is happening. I am not. Great line from really, really great line from the Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. It is what it is. Do not blame me. I am just the messenger. I am telling you how things will turn out. I cannot, in any way, shape, or form, take the exclusive bragging rights that I'm the one who's creating the events. I am only telling you what events are happening and why. So yeah. But yeah. So yeah. Don't blame me. But yeah.
So he says. He says in this article that this is the only way to save Anthem.
Yeah, basically.
Right? Like that they're in.
Well, I mean, they're pretty much already on the chopping block as it is. Like, not only the studio, but like obviously Anthem, the game, is basically a pile of poo-poo at this point, and there is very little that can actually save it. So yeah, this would be kind of a last ditch effort to try and secure it in some way, shape, or fashion. And yeah, this would be the only thing that they could do, really. Would be a great opening act, saying, look, we screwed up. There is no more store. Everybody can get everything in the game by looting it. Mm-hmm. And come back and try the game after we tweak some stuff, because they've had a bunch of updates now. They have their open storm thing going on, and again, it bears no resemblance, only a passing slight resemblance to what was shown in the trailer at E3 a few years ago. It has there's no evolving with that. It's basically one giant map with very little to next to nothing going on in it, and just a bunch of spawn camps, and you just fly around spawn camping stuff. I played the same game in Firefall like 10 years ago, and that game wasn't that good either. That's a whole mess of stuff to think about. But yeah, no, overall.
All right, and then we wanted to clear up something that we discussed in the previous podcast, regarding something in Cyberpunk Red, talking about net running. And so
in the net running, you have the ability to control things. This control is both real world and cyber world related. It is not. Ash was trying to was kind of coming up with the assumption that it was that you control things in the physical world with it. No. And I was trying to make the point that no, it's both. But I think I ended up overly making the point that it was digital. No. All of the ability, this particular ability affects things in both worlds at the same time, and hence why it's in there. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there, make sure that was understood. And that we're most likely going to see a similar version of this in the 2077 game. The basically like hacking turrets and hacking robots and stuff like that. That is very common stuff. Absolutely. So yeah, so that's there, and that's really, really interesting. And goodness sakes, there's so much interesting lore coming out of this book. Wow, there's so much going on here. Definitely pick this up. It's the digital version is gonna launch for sale in August. We will have a link to it in the video that we put up. But it is honestly worth the money just for the lore read and familiarizing yourself with the world. So we're gonna highly push that. We're gonna highly encourage that, and we're not even getting paid to do that. So. Just throwing that out there. We don't even get paid to do this, which is why that we really, really stand up for this and suggest that this is something that you can get. Absolutely, hands down.
Mm-hmm. And we can't wait to share some of that new lore goodness with you, as well as other stuff about Cyberpunk Red. We've got a series going on. First video is out now, and the series is called Unpacking Cyberpunk Red, because we are unpacking it both literally and figuratively. We will be doing an unboxing when we get the physical edition of the starter kit. but we're going to be also unpacking it in the sense of looking at how it, just the aspects of it that relate to Cyberpunk 2077 and what we're going to be seeing in that game. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun. All right. I think that's all for our show today. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening, and thank you for the great conversation in the chat. Thank you especially to our Patreon supporters, Shannon Vega, Old Man Manson, Evolution, and our 2 anonymous supporters. Thank you to all of our channel members, and all of you who are active and in the chat and listen live every Wednesday night and Saturday morning. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to slam that like button if you haven't already, and also subscribe for future content if you're listening after the fact. Leave a comment below. Let us know your most profound thoughts. We really appreciate it. And if you're listening after the fact on SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, or any of the other platforms that our podcast populates to, we thank you for your interactions there as well. And feel free to join us Wednesday nights and Saturday mornings for a live show where you can interact with us and other listeners, be a part of the discussion. The Augmented Reality Podcast is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news updates, and tons more quality gaming content. My name is Asheninity on behalf of Subsidian. Thank you so much for listening. We will talk to you next week.